everyone, it's me, author Alexandrian Fanfic. How are you guys doing? It's Tuesday, and tonight's review will be by Siren out. Now, I'm not exactly sure if she's pronouncing her name Siren or Siren. I mean, it looks like Siren, but like I have a character named Siren, and they call her Cy, but it's Cyrin. So I'm not exactly sure if she's pronouncing it Siren or Siren. But anyway, that's who our author is going to be tonight. So just a little heads up. We will be doing the submission authors tomorrow. We will start with. I'm not telling you yet. Anyway, so because tomorrow is because tomorrow is a romance day as well, it will be a romance that you guys will be expecting. Now remember, Thursday we'll start mainstream romance, and then Friday will be everything. So we'll probably do some horror. Anyway, so let's get started. So now tonight's book, like I said, is by Siren Allen, or Siren, and it's called Cinderella and the Wolf Prince. There we go. As you can see. So, now, obviously, the character's name is Cinderella. So basically, sorry about that. She usurped a fairy tale, or she created her own version of Cinderella. And I really, really like this book. Basically, how it begins is this, the pretty much the same Cinderella story. The character's name is Cinderella DuPont. But where it switches up, I mean, there's the stepsisters, there's all of that stuff involved. But where she switches it up is Cinderella's stepmother runs a brothel, basically. They're called the Ladies of the Night. And I was laughing so hard when I read that, because I grew up in the 80s, and anytime you heard Ladies of the Night, well, you know what they were, especially down on Sunset Boulevard. Anyway, so I was laughing at that part. I thought that was really funny. And so there's the premise, Cinderella and her evil stepsisters and her evil stepmother. That's normal, or as per the regular Cinderella story. But now the prince is a wolf. And what happens is he ran the kingdom, and he ran his father and his brothers. And basically it was a wolf kingdom. And they lived more natural, or cavemanish, I should say, more troglodytean, to where, there were no newfound fangled things, and they lived off the land, but he was still prince, and his brothers were princes, and his father was king, so they ran the country. The kingdom. Well, what happens is a dark wizard basically casts a spell, and he kidnaps him and his brothers and his father, because he's looking for a prophecy. He needs to stop this prophecy from happening. So he kidnaps the brothers and the father. Now he kills his brothers and his fathers, but he keeps him alive because he tried to kill him, but he didn't die. So then he realized, oh my God, this is the prophecy wolf. So I have to keep him here so he does not fulfill this prophecy. Well, Cinderella DuPont is the other half of the wolf prophecy, or the ancient prophecy. And basically the prophecy is that they will rule, and they will basically banish dark magic from the land. So what winds up happening is this dark wizard keeps the prince in a cage for like 2 centuries. So he knows nothing. His wolf has basically pretty much died inside of him. And his one and only thing is to escape the cage. And so Cinderella becomes she wants to be a sister, excuse me, a sister witch. And so she decides to cast a spell using DNA, and she's able to pull the prince from this realm that he was in with the dark wizard. And so she helps him escape, and then he goes back to the castle. Everything's changed because it's been like centuries since he was here. He's not used to it. He's angry. He's basically feral. And so they need to try to control him, and he's always tearing crap up. And so basically, his cousin Quentin, which is a wolf, and like he finds out as the centuries have gone on that wolves decide to live in their skin. They don't switch to their wolf side anymore, and it's been so long that they have that he's not even sure if they can shift anymore. Well, the minute he stepped out of that realm and into his own realm, his wolf like woke up and he shifted, and he just went crazy and was like, the author tells us, that he went crazy and he just tore up everything, and they had to like pretty much put him to sleep or something like that to calm him, and then they cast a spell on him so he would be, semi-normal. And so basically through the centuries that he was in that cage, they tortured him. And then they found out that he couldn't die. So basically then they went like for broke, because they were like, oh, well, he'll just wake up tomorrow. And so, so basically, he hires, so he goes, actually his cousin takes him to the ladies in waiting. And he doesn't want to go there for what the ladies in waiting offer. It's seductive magic. And so he doesn't want to go there for what the ladies are offering. He wants to go there to see if he can find information, to find a witch to help him pretty much die. Because he doesn't want to be in this existence. He doesn't want to live here because his brothers and his father is dead. There's no family to speak of that he knows. Everyone in this realm is a foreigner to him, basically, because this is centuries later. So everyone who would have been alive when he was alive, they've died out, and this is all ancestry. So his cousin Quentin convinces him to go to the ladies in waiting. And so he goes, but he and the madam, you may as well say, is Catherine, Cinderella's stepmother. And then her stepsisters are also ladies in waiting. Cinderella is too uncouth, she says, so she can't be a lady in waiting. And so she pretty much serves like champagne, the guests, that kind of stuff. She doesn't do anything risque. And so they set him up with one of her friends from childhood, Jeanette, but he doesn't want that. And so when she comes in the room, he's pretty much asking her questions, and then he gives her like this big, purse of money, and then he's like, I don't want any of this, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I need to leave here, but I don't want my cousin to have to leave too, because he's probably enjoying himself. And then so she tells him, you can go down the hallway into the green room and you can escape through the window there if you're okay with that. And so he's like, yeah, it's fine with me. And so she takes him to the green room. Well, she takes him to the green room, not realizing that Cinderella is actually in the green room. She was feeling sick, and she didn't want to be, she didn't want her stepmother to catch her, because she wanted to go home. And she figured if her stepmother caught her, then she would force her to do even more work. And she didn't want to do that. So she snuck into the green room to hide. And while she was in there, she fell asleep. And so Jeanette, nor the Wolf Prince, which is really funny because his name is Wolf. It's spelled W-L-F, Wolf St. Jameson. And so she lets him into the room, and like when he comes into the room, he starts feeling dizzy, he starts feeling really weird, and so he takes a seat on the bed. And when he takes a seat on the bed, he feels her, and he's like, what's this? And then basically he kind of like fills her up, but not like, he's not trying to fill her up like in a dirty way, at least yet. Um, he was like more like, what is this? Because of the fact that since he's been tortured, he was tortured for all those centuries. His eyesight and his hearing is not what it should be. He can only hear and see perfectly in his wolf form. So he knows there's something on the bed, but he doesn't know what it is yet. And then once he starts feeling out, he realizes, oh my God, it's a girl. And so basically she wakes up, she has a mask on. They have this little conversation and then they wind up, you know what. And so he realizes that when he does, that she's his mate. And so he marks her. He gives her a mate's mark on her neck. So the next morning when he wakes up, Cinderella's ghost. Like, And then she realized that he bit her and that she was his mate. But she's like, no, that's not the life I want. I have things that I want. I will be done working off my indentured servitude to my evil stepmother. And then once that's done, I have my own home. I have all of these things that I want to do. I don't have time for a mate. So what she does is she goes to her bestie, Kara, and she pretty much asks her for a cloaking spell. And so she cloaks her. She hides the mate's mark, and then she changes her scent. So whenever she's around him, or if he comes to, if she winds up bumping into him or whatever, he won't know it's her because he can't smell her. It's not her scent, or the scent of the woman that he slept with, and she has no mate's mark. So basically, the funny part to me is that he wakes up the next day, he's pissed off, he's tearing up crap, and then he's like, I need my mate, blah, 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 blah. I found my mate, and he feels like if he finds his mate, then maybe, the dementedness or whatever it is that he feels, it will leave him. So he wants to find his mate, and so basically, she's a tracker. And the funny part is the cousin takes her to him. Takes him to her for her to find his mate. And so she's freaking out because she's like, oh my God, at some point he's going to realize it's me. And the best friend's like, no, calm down, calm down. We gave you a cloaking spell. He can't know you. He can't smell you, all that stuff, right? So you're good. And so she's like, okay, so she starts to work for him, basically looking for herself, which I thought was hysterically funny in the book. And so she's like, well, do you have an item? And she realized when she got home and she told her bestie that what happened and the night before, she realized, oh my God, I have my underwear. And so she's like, when she's meeting with him, the bestie's there, and then his cousin's there, and she's like, well, I would need something of hers to be able to track her. And he's like, yeah, I have it. And then so the best friend looks at her and glares at her. She's like, see, basically saying, see, I told you this would be our downfall. And so she realizes that he has her underwear. And so that's what he wants to use in order for her to track him, or for her to track her, you may as well say. And so they go basically through the rest of the book. It's showing the escapades, and then they start growing really close. And then she realizes that, further into the book, that she actually wants to be his mate. But she screwed herself because she can't. If she takes the cloaking spell off now, then he's going to know that she basically lied to him, that she didn't want to be his mate. And so she's afraid, so she doesn't want to tell him. And then the queen is still everyone is still trying to help him find his mate because he's grouchy, he's bitter, he's tearing up stuff, because his wolf is angry and he wants his mate. And so she goes, we'll have a ball. So basically Cinderella style. We'll have a ball, and then that way you can meet and sniff, if you need to, every available female, because she's basically saying, you get on my nerves, tearing up crap. And so so they have a ball, and she decides, okay, because she spent so much time with him now, and just doing fun stuff and getting to know him as a person. And she realizes that she wants to be his maid. So she has her bestie Kara take the cloaking spell off her. And so Kara's like, are you sure? Because this might not work out basically the way you wanted to. And so she's like, yeah, I'm sure, blah, 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 blah. And so they go to the ball, and before the ball, they wind up sleeping together again. And so he's angry. He's pissed off because he thinks every time he has feelings for her, he's cheating on his mate, because the bond between mate and mate means that you can't step outside of that. And so every time he has a feeling for her, every time he caresses her and realizes, oh crap, I shouldn't be doing that, I'm cheating on my mate. So they wind up sleeping together again, and he feels disgusted with himself, and he's pissed off because he's like, I'm cheating on my mate, the one person that I'm supposed to be mated to for life, that I'm supposed to love, protect, whatever. And so he gets pissed off, and he's like, I don't ever want to see you again. I can't be around you. And so didn't get it at first while he was doing that. And then she realizes, oh crap, he thinks he's cheating on his mate, but I'm really his mate. And so that's when she decides to take the cloaking spell off. And then she goes to the ball, and then basically it doesn't work out the way she thought it was going to work out. So she has her, like, she goes to talk to him, and he's like, no, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to see you. And so the thing that was so funny to me in this book is, like, the wolf is speaking as well. So he's not only having a conversation with her, he's having a conversation with his wolf. And so the wolf is saying, no, we need her. We love her. And then he's like, no, she lied. No, we can't be around her because she makes us cheat. She makes us sin. And so since her name is Cinderella, he calls her my sin. And so he's like, we can't be around her. She makes us sin. We can't be, and so he's having like this really tumultuous inner, conversation with himself, hating himself even more. And so he's like, no, I can't talk to you. No, I don't want to see you. And so she's like, but I need to tell you something. He's like, no. Don't you see I have other guests? I have other people waiting, basically trying to like brush her off. And so she's like, no, I'm not going anywhere until you actually have a conversation with me. And he's like, I have guests. She's like, so I'm going to wait here, basically. And so finally he's like, okay, fine. And then she laughs or whatever, and then she walks off. And then when she goes over to her bestie, Car takes the spell off. She reverses the spell. And so he's standing across the room, and it is just like, and he turns around and he looks, and he realizes at that exact moment as she's walking to him that she freaking lied all this time. And so instead of being happy like she thought he was going to be, he was pissed off because he's like, okay, you basically didn't want me. You cloaked yourself. So basically you could not be my mate. How do you think I'm supposed to feel about that? And so then the stepmother, there's a back prophecy with her and her mother where it's like basically they think she killed her mother, and then she was dating some boy, and the boy only wanted the money, and he wound up killing his father. So they basically pretty much think she killed her mother and her father. And so the stepmother's like, yes, there's something I need to tell you, because they have a bride price through the ladies in waiting. They will find, because Cinderella is a tracker, they will find your mate for you. And if you find your mate in the house of the ladies in waiting, then you have to pay a bride price. And so this is why the greedy stepmother wants anyone who finds their mate in her house to pay her for that, because a mate nowadays is so rare, because basically they've pretty much left their wolves at the front door. And so to find a mate, it's like a really big thing in this universe. And so he's been saying from the beginning that he found her in her house. And so she's like, you owe me a bride price, blah, 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 blah. And so at the ball, the stepmother with her janky self, she's like, no, Not only have you been searching for your, because she, remember, she didn't get the chance to tell him that she's his mate. He just felt it rush over him, and right when she was walking toward him and he turned around pissed off, he was about to say something, and the stepmother stands up and she's like, yes, he's the prince has been long our long lost prince has been looking for his bride for all of this time, and guess what, she's been right here. And then she says her name, and it's like everybody in the ballroom turns around and they start glaring at her. And there's like, oh, she lied. She cloaked herself so that she couldn't be with him. She did this, she did that. And oh, if you didn't know, on top of it, she killed her mother and she killed her father. And so basically everyone's like, oh, and then so Cinderella starts freaking out and she's crying and she goes to turn around to leave, and he catches her, throws her over his shoulder, and he's like, and so he takes her to this part of the castle that they had been in, all of the, like, they had done like this little trekking and exploring of the castles and stuff, and so they fell into this abandoned part of the castle. Well, the abandoned part of the castle was actually where he used to live centuries ago. It was his home, and what they did when they built the new castle, they built on top of all of that, so all of the land and everything actually belongs to him, even though he's the prince and his distant cousin is the queen. She knows that the throneship actually belongs to him, but he doesn't want to rule because he feels like I'm not in my right mind to be ruling, so because I'm crazy, basically. And so so she tells all of this stuff, and he takes her to where they had journeyed before. And so he's like, no, you're gonna stay here. She tries to explain. He's like, no, I don't want to hear anything you have to say. You're gonna give me 3 days. And she's like, 3 days for what? And he's like, 3 days where you do and say everything that I want. And then she's like, who said I was doing that? And he was like, no, there's no talking, there's this, there's that. And so basically he doesn't have to coerce her, because by this time she loves him and she wants to be with him. And she tried to tell him, that she was his mate, and then all of that happened. So she like pretends like she's being forced to do it, but she really isn't, because she wants to. And so they spend the 3 days together, but then comes this other force that's been in the kingdom all this time, and she had no clue that this was there. And so now this dark force, which was part of this prophecy, because the whole point, the prophecy is that he will find his alpha mate, he will be alpha king, he will find his alpha witch mate, and then they'll rule basically the kingdom and disperse with dark magic. So dark magic will be wiped out. So basically there's this dark force that's like, not today, you're not wiping us out. And so basically that's all I can tell you, because I'm not going to tell you the end. You have to read it to know the end, and everything that I tell you after this will mess up the story for you, so I can't. Now, about this book, we're going to talk about this book. I really, really, really like this book. This book was so good that I was basically, when I first read this book, I was at work that day. And I thought, oh, hey, you know what? I have some downtime, because like I was telling you guys, I'm a teacher. But here in California, I'm not teaching, because to get a professorship, I have to switch my license over to California, and I'm not staying here. I'm only here till June. And then I would have to be licensed here. Then I'll have to go before a panel. I have to petition, do all these kind of things. So it's really not worth it. I don't have enough time for that. It would take me, from now until June in order to even get the job. So I'm like, no. But I have a culinary degree. And I have a bachelor's degree as well. I have a master's, and a culinary. So basically, I'm an executive chef. I've been an executive chef for 23 years too. I do triple careers because I'm like really OCD. And so I'm an executive chef. And so I was actually on some downtime. Everything in the kitchen was working smoothly. My employees, there were no problems, So I was like, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to take a lunch. And so I had ordered this book but I never got to read it because, like I said, I was always busy. Sometimes I work 16-hour days. And so I was like, I'm going to start reading this book. This book is so good that I freaking could not, one of my sous chef is calling me, Allie, I need you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, wait, I'm coming, basically, because this book was that good. I literally loved it. And so, if I had to say anything that was wrong with it, there were a couple of typos, but the fact that the story is so good, the typos don't actually affect the story. Like, I did find some. So, that's not a big deal. The story flowed. The characters were charismatic. I mean, you fell in love with them. The prince is hysterically funny, and he's not even trying to be, because, like, the conversations that he has with his wolf, he's like, I can't stand her smell. And then the wolf is like, kill her. And he's like, no, we can't. I mean, just the things that are going on with, inside of his head sometimes are really, really funny. Some of them are really dark, but then some of them are really, really funny like that, And then the cousin Quentin, he's funny too. And I really liked everything. If I had to say what not that I didn't like, but it was a bit confusing when I first read it because, when you think of Cinderella, you think of that kingdom. You think of horse-drawn carriages, you think of all of that, the kingdom. And so there were experts of it. She drew the world for you. And like in my mind, the world was a kingdom like that. Because he even refers to horse-drawn carriages, all of this stuff. But the language is what kept throwing me off, because as much as I love this book, it kept throwing me off because I'm like, okay, am I in the kingdom or am I in the real world? Because the language was real world language. It wasn't like, I'm assuming what we would assume that Cinderella or a kingdom, because a kingdom like that would have been in like the 16th, 17th, 18th century, somewhere in there. So it could just be the fact that, I'm an annoying professor. I teach literature, art, history, mythology. And so my brain automatically goes to Cinderella was set like in the 15th, 16th century, I believe, somewhere in between the 16th and the 17th century, somewhere in that time period. That would have been when the Brothers Grimm actually wrote these, all of these little fairy tales. So that's why my brain was automatically going there. So if anything, that was the only thing that kept me confused and I didn't really care for, because I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be in that 16th century world or, present day, because the language was present day. And although they refer to carriages, they refer to all of these, ancient or historic things in the book, they spoke normal everyday slang like we would do nowadays, like substituting the word witch for the B word. And so, I was a little bit confused about that, because it's like, okay, am I in the real world or I'm in, a fairy tale land, which would have been, there would have been verbiage that should have been used if that were the case. But beside that, this book is flame. You guys really need to read it. If I had to, excuse me, I will show you the cover again. Once again, it's called Cinderella and the Wolf Prince. Here is the cover. It is an interracial romance. As you can see, it's by Siren Allen, or it could be Siren. I told you I'm having an issue with that. I'm not sure if it's Siren or Siren, because it looks like Siren, Siren, but like I said, it could be Siren. So, and it's at Amazon.com. I'm not sure if she's on Barnes and Nobles because I didn't check it. I bought this from, as you can see, my Kindle. I bought it from Amazon, so I'm not exactly sure where the rest of her books are, but I know she does. I've read, this is my third book by her. I've read two other paranormals, which we will probably get into at some other point because I really like them too because they're sci-fi. So she switched it up and she went to sci-fi, and so I really like her books. They're all interracial. Like I said, you can find her on Amazon. If I had to give this book a star rating, she would get a 4. She would seriously get a 4 for this. And the only reason I'm not giving it a 5 or 4.5 is because I was a little confused with the world. Sorry, and there were a couple of typos in here. The typos don't matter, but more to me, or more importantly, is like the confusion that I had with the world tense, which one it was supposed to be in. But other than that, she gets a solid 4 points or 4 stars because this book is flying. I loved everything about it. Basically, I reread it again. And, I'm sitting there in my office laughing at the book, and people are like, what the heck are you doing? Did you know we had like 5 pots of marinara sauce on? I'm like, yeah, just do it. This book was that good that I didn't want to, I'm at work and I'm supposed to be working, but I was reading this book. And so anyway, so it's really good. Like I said, I'll show you guys one more time. It's called Cinderella and the Wolf Prince. You can see. And it's by Siren Allen. And you can find it at Amazon.com. You guys really need to go out and pick up this book because I'm telling you, it's so juicy. It is 18 and over. It's very, very juicy. There is some really, really risque-ness in it. She uses the P word and the C word. So this is not for you little ones. Kick rocks. It's not for you. But everyone else, all you ladies out there who love werewolves, me, you need to go out there and get this book. It's interracial. Like I said, the sizzle meter is hot, hot, hot. And it's a 4-star. I'm telling you guys. It is that good. So you need to go and check it out. Pick up Siren Allen's Cinderella and the Wolf Prince today at Amazon. Tomorrow we will begin our submission authors. So stay tuned. We hope to see you guys tomorrow. And I will be back tomorrow.